Hello and welcome. Today I'll be sharing with you how I made this transparent corset top with yoke for an inbuilt corset. So if you haven't yet seen the drafting tutorial, please go down to my channel, or I'm going to leave a link at the description box. So if you're wondering why I'm putting on this skirt, it's just to avoid revealing so much flesh for this video. So let's start. So here is my pattern, and I've gone ahead to cut out the pieces I need to make this dress. So on this part I added 1/2 inch round, and then on this other part I added 1/2 inch round. At this point I did not add 1/2 inch because I've already added it to my pattern when I was cutting out. Then moving over, you're just going to join this pattern, but before we do that I'm going to unpin my pattern. So for the skin net I'm using for this particular tutorial, I went ahead to cut out 2 pieces for each side. So the reason why I'm doing this is to avoid it from wearing or tearing off. So for the top part of my corset, I had to add 1/2 inch round also to this pattern, and I also cut out my gum stay for this pattern. I used a bridal satin for the lining of this. The material is a bit thick, so I had to use a bridal, and I went ahead to cut out wording. So you can go ahead to use your already made cup, bra foam or wording. So this is an illustration video and I'm just using what I have already at home. So going to my pattern, I added 1/2 inch, and normally my yoke part I normally double it, but for this particular tutorial I just cut out a single net or mesh for the yoke part, and I added 1/2 inch. I slanted from that part down to the end, and I added 1/2 inch. So I didn't add 1/2 inch at the neckline since I'm not going to sew on it. So the next thing we'll be moving over right now is to unpin the pattern and arrange it. So I got this thread that is almost the same color with the skin net I'm using. So we are going to unpin my pattern, and I'm going to place it the way it's meant to be. So watch me while I do that. Please sorry for the generator sound from the background of the video. So I'm done placing my pieces for, or my mesh for the corset. So next thing I'll do is to top stitch on it. If you remember, I cut out 2 pieces for each. So the reason why I'm top stitching it is so that it won't move from the other one while sewing. So I'll just go and top stitch it round on the machine, and I will bring it back. So after top stitching, I'll go ahead to join with 1/2 inch. So whatever you're going to join will be in front of your corset, or the joining will be in front. So I've gone ahead to join the other side, and this is the back. Look at how it is, and this is what the front looks like. So I'll go ahead to join the other part. So after joining the other part, this is what my corset looks like. So we'll be moving over to trimming off the excess that I have. So you're just going to trim close to your sewing allowance. Please do not cut off your sewing allowance when you're doing this. So after trimming it out, this is what I have. I also ironed it, but it's looking a bit rough, but I'll still re-iron it. So next you're going to create your boning channel on it, but before that, while cutting your mesh, you should check the part that is stiff, like this part is not moving compared to this part. So you're going to be placing your pattern this way while cutting it. So next thing I'll do is to place and sew my boning channels. So there are different ways of creating a boning channel. So this material I'm using is thick, and I use 1.5 inches. So you can use 3 inches. While you're cutting yours, make sure you double yours, because this is a transparent corset. I'm just doing this because I'm not going to wear this later. So what you're going to do is stitch with 1/2 inch, and I'm going to fold and top stitch on it. So I'm just going to create as much boning channels that I want. So you can go ahead to create 2 or more. I'll also repeat this at the other side of the corset pattern. So here is it. I've gone ahead to sew my boning on it and I ironed it out. So the next thing we'll be working on right now is the cup area. So for the cup area, I'm going to arrange it accordingly to avoid being confused, because most times if you misplace your cup you find it difficult. So first I'm going to be opening up the center part of the cup, and I'm going to open and place this way. So after placing that, I'm going to go over and pick the gum stay of this particular pattern. So let me repeat it again in case you're confused. I'm going to open it up this way and I'm going to place. Then after doing that, I'll go ahead to open up the lining, sorry, the gum stay part of it, and I'm going to open it up this way and keep it at both sides. After doing that, I'm going to open up the lining parts of the corset cup and I'm going to place it on the gum stay. So the reason why I'm doing this is in case you're confused while placing your cup, because sometimes I get confused and I make sure I follow my pattern. So after placing it, I'm just going to iron the gum stay on it. And also this is the wording I'm going to be making use for this cup, and I'm just going to place it on each part of it. So after placing for this part, we are going to be working on the side cup. So if you're using an Ankara or any material, you can go ahead to iron an interfacing on the main fabric of your cup before attaching your wording to it. So next thing, we are going to be moving to the side cup. So just the same way we placed for the center cup, we are going to do that for the side cup. So I'm just going to remove the pins that I have. Then I'm going to place the cup, the main material first. After doing that, I'm going to open up to the gum stay. After the gum stay, I'm going to open up to the lining, and after the lining, I'm going to open up to the wording. Please make sure the shiny part of your wording and the shiny part of your gum stay is facing the wrong side of your fabric. So what I'll do next is to iron the wording on my main fabric, and then I'm going to place and join with 1/2 inch, and also iron the gum stay on the lining, and I'm going to join it also with 1/2 inch. So after joining the lining part and the cup part, this is what I have. So on a normal corset, you're just going to add the main cup, but this we are going to start with the lining. So with that, I'm going to switch the cup, just because by the time you turn it to this part, this cup will be serving for the other side. So after that, what I'm going to do is I'll go ahead to place it from the beginning part, and I'm going to hold it down with 1/2 inch. I'm going to sew with 1/2 inch. Then I'll also repeat it on the other part of the cup. So I've gone ahead to attach the cup, and this is what I have. This is the front part and this is the back part of my corset, and this is how it's looking. The back part, as you can see, is very neat. So the next thing I'm going to do right now is to attach the yoke. So if you notice that the process for this one is quite different from other corsets, but there are several methods of a transparent corset. So I'm going to fold this and I'm going to notch that line on the dart line I have on this yoke part, because I'm going to be making reference to that. So I forgot to notch the lining part of my cup, and I'll go ahead to notch it. So if you have any other method of joining a transparent corset, please leave it at the comment section. So after notching that, what I'm going to do right now is to attach my yoke to the cup part. So I'm going to open up my yoke this way. So just like I said, this is a single yoke. So now for joining my cup, that notched part will be, I'll be placing the notched part to the center where I joined my cup. So that's why I notched that part. so it's very important for it not to exceed. So from there, I'm just going to sew with 1/2 inch. So remember, whatever you're sewing is facing the right side. So I'm just going to sew to where the yoke ends at this part. To this point, I'm going to sew, and I will stop. So you can go ahead to notch yours so that you will not get confused. So on this other part also, I'm going to also sew with 1/2, but I'll first of all notch it. So I've gone ahead to the machine to attach my yoke, and this is what I have. This is the back part, and this is the front side of my corset. So remember, what like I said, everything you're going to be joining at this part is going to be in front. So after that, I'm just going to stitch this part with 1/2 inch. I'm going to stitch it up. So after stitching it, this is what I have for the front, and this is what the back is looking like. So I'll go ahead to flip it back to the right side. So the next thing we're going to do now is to trim out the little excess we have on this center part. So right now we'll be creating the V at the center of the corset. So I cut out this strip. Just like I said, always remember to double yours. This is an illustration video. So I cut out 1.5. So immediately after that 1/2 inch, I joined my cup width. I'm just going to place my fabric this way, and I'm going to sew with 1/2 inch starting on that part, and I'm going to sew with 1/2 inch down. After sewing with 1/2 inch, I'm going to flip my boning casing this way, and I'm going to just top stitch on it and then cut out the excess. So after that, I'll cut out a boning, and I'm going to add boning to that part. So after this, the next is to create the boning channel on the other one. So immediately after where I joined my cup with 1/2 inch, I'm going to sew with 1/2 inch on it. So after sewing with 1/2 inch on it, I'm going to flip it this way. After sewing with 1/2 inch, I'm going to flip it to the other side, and I'm going to fold it in with 1/2 inch, and I'm going to sew. So always remember to double yours. You can use 3 inches on fold, so that by the time, the reason why you're going to double it, so that by the time you pass your boning inside, it's not going to be showing on the other side. So there are also different methods of creating a boning channel, so you can as well use that method. So I've gone ahead to sew down this. So the next is to attach my cup to the dress. So to do that, what I'm going to do is, at that point I joined at my cup, I'm going to place it at the lining parts this way, facing each other. The right part of the lining I sewed with 1/2 inch facing that part, and I'm going to sew half around the cup side, and I'm going to stop at the points where that boning casing at the center stopped, and I'm going to sew to the end of the cup. After stitching on top, this is what I have. As you can see, it is looking neat at the upper part, and I'm going to flip it to the wrong side, and this is what I have at the wrong side. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this part, and I'm going to notch it. So it's either you notch it or you're going to top stitch it to the lining part of this dress. So I've done that already. Then we are going to move to the next step. So while sewing, I forgot to tell you that you have to fold this part of your cup before attaching. You have to fold with 1/2 inch inside, because you're going to fold the remaining part and you're going to top stitch it on the lining part. So going over to the lining part, at this point you're just going to notch this where you joined your cup at this point a little, so that you can go ahead to bend the 1/2 inch at this point inside, because you're going to use the upper part to top stitch on top of the lining part of the corset. So I'll go ahead to notch it. After notching it, the next thing I'm going to do is to fold in the cup right round. I'm going to fold the main fabric on top, and I'm going to fold the one inside, the lining inside, and I'm going to top stitch with 1/2 inch. So watch me, let me illustrate what I just said now. So this one inside, I folded it in, and I'm going to take this and I'm going to fold on top of it this way. So after folding on top, you notice that it's looking very neat, and then I'm going to go ahead to take my pin to secure it to make sure it doesn't move. So after pinning it, you're just going to continue the same process. If you can't sew without pinning, you can go ahead to do that, but if you can't, it's better for you to pin to avoid mistake. So at this part, you're just going to push in the lining inside this way, and you're going to use the cup, you're going to fold it in with 1/2 inch, and you're going to place it and you sew right round the cup. So I'll go over to the sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch with 1/2 inch. So after sewing with 1/2 inch, this is what I have, and if you notice that the V part is taking shape, flipping it over to the wrong side, this is what it looks like. So I'll go ahead to sew the other part of the cup also. So I'll also follow the same process I followed for this cup. So after sewing this cup, this is what I have. The next thing we are going to do is to join the other part, which is the back part of this pattern. So time to sew the back part of this dress, and if you notice, I've attached one side of it. You can go ahead to drape a net in front of the corset, but I won't be doing that because I don't have a pinnable mannequin, or you can do it after sewing and use trimming to cover it. So I'm just going to show you how to sew this part, but mainly this tutorial is focused on how to sew the transparent part of this corset. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and stitch here with 1/2 inch at this part. So after stitching that, I'm going to notch. So this is what I have. So to join it to the shoulder part of this dress, I'm going to place it this way. Then after placing it, I'm going to open one part of it and I'm going to cover it up. Then I'll go ahead to sew 1/2 inch at the shoulder. After sewing 1/2 inch at the shoulder, I'm just going to fold in the net or the mesh inside, and I'm going to top stitch on this part. I'll sew on this part and then I'll go ahead to notch it round. So I'm done doing that. The next thing is the pattern for the back. So just like I said, this back is not the main focus for this tutorial. So, and I'm using this very thick material. So if you're sewing yours, you're going to iron gum stay to your lining part. So this fabric I'm using is very thick, and I don't think I'm going to wear this dress, so I didn't bother adding gum stay to the back pattern. So to sew this part, I'm just going to turn this over to the right side, and I'm going to take this, I'll place it this way. After placing it, what I'm going to do right now is to take this one and place on top of it. So I'll open it up this way, and I'm going to put in the neckline or the yoke part inside, and I'm going to leave about 1/2 inch outwards. Then I will place the other part of it on it, and I'm going to pin and then go ahead to sew with 1/2 inch. So after sewing, this is what I have. The next thing you're going to do is to create the loop for the back. So if you're using eyelet, is also okay for you, but most of my tutorials I've been using eyelet, and I decided to make a loop for this particular one. For the loop part, I cut out 2.5 inches for the strips of fabric that I used, the length. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fold it into 2. But before I do that, I'm going to open up this place, and I'm going to place it facing this side. And after placing it, I'm going to pin it down, measure about 1.5 inches, and I'm going to place another one, and it will be facing the other side. Remember, it's supposed to face the other side, so that by the time you're done top stitching, it will now fall on the other side of the corset or the loop. So after attaching the loop, this is what I have on this side. So the next thing I'll do is to open up my back pattern this way, and I will close it back this way, and I will go ahead to stitch with half inch. I'm going to measure half inch and I'm going to stitch down. So after stitching with that half inch, I'm going to go ahead to turn it to the right side afterwards, and then I'm going to stitch a second line immediately after the loop just to create a boning channel, and I'll also do that at the other back. So you can create as many boning channel with this. So after sewing, I went ahead to notch my dress and to notch that part that the loop is, to avoid it being too bulky. So after sewing, this is what I have on this part. So just like I said, I sewed half inch after the loop and I created a boning channel on it. I just ran 2 stitches on it that I'll be passing my boning inside. So the next thing I'll do is to finish up this side of the dress. So I just have these pieces that I cut out. What I'm going to do now is to fold one end. The width of the material is 1.5 inch, so I'm just going to fold down the edge. From the back side, I'm going to sew with half inch. After sewing with half inch, I'm going to turn it to the right side and I'm going to fold it in and go ahead to top stitch to finish up the front part of the lace. So after doing that, I'll go ahead to join the back to the front. But while I'm joining it, remember, like I said, everything you're joining will be in front. So I'm just going to sew it in front. So I've gone ahead to sew it, and this is what I have at the front part. So just like I said, I joined it in front. So the next thing I'll do is just to trim out the excess. So after trimming out the excess, to cover that joining, you're just going to create a lacing bar on it. But before I create my lacing bar, I'm just going to make sure that the sides of my corset are lined. So I'm just going to place it back and then trim out little excess that I have by this side. So please, while working with this net, try to be careful to avoid it from tearing. So after trimming off, this is what my corset is looking like. So the next thing we are going to do is to try to conceal the side, and to do that, what you're going to do is to sew on it. We are going to create a boning channel on it. So I cut out 1.5 inches width. So just like I said, you're going to double yours. So at the upper part, I'm going to fold it in with half inch before placing. Then I'm going to place it, and I will sew with half inch. So after sewing with half inch, I'm going to flip it to the other side, and then I'm going to top stitch on it. While top stitching on it, I'm going to top stitch the end to avoid the boning to poke out from that part. So after sewing this, I'll go ahead to conceal the other side. So I'm done sewing, and this is what I have. So the next step I'm going to take is to pass my boning through my boning channels. So while passing your boning, to avoid it from poking someone, you can go ahead to conceal the mouth with a tape. So after that, the next thing we're going to do is to wrap the lower parts of this corset. So to do that, I cut about 1.5 strip, and I'm going to sew half inch from the back parts of this corset. I'm just going to place it and sew with half inch. After that, I'll go ahead to fold it up this way, and I'm going to finish the mouth. I'll go ahead to top stitch it round. So with that, I'm done, and this is the final result. Please don't forget to like, share, and also subscribe to my channel.